All right, so today we're going to start working on our tile. And so no matter if you're in the classroom or if you are at home, we're going to go about this the same way. You have your wet clay and you have your piece of canvas down on the surface you're working with. Now the clay that we have this quarter is very, very wet because it was just recycled, and so it's got a lot of moisture in it. So we're gonna actually work it onto our canvas and try and expel some of the air bubbles by pushing down and almost throwing it down onto the canvas. And this will help to work out some of the air bubbles. Ordinarily we would wedge this, but since we don't have access, we don't all have access to a wedging table, we're just going to use physical pressure to expel some of the air bubbles. And since we're just making flat tiles, this process will work just fine for us. All right, so that's going to do it for us. Now you want to work on flattening this out a bit. Okay, so I flattened it out a bit. Now we're going to put it down on our canvas. And if you're at school, you have these wooden rails, which are approximately 3/8 of an inch thick. And we're going to put these down on each side of our clay. And then we're going to use our rolling pin to roll this out. If you're at home, you can use a rolling pin with or without rails. Sometimes students like to use, you can use rulers stacked on top of each other on each side. But if you don't have that sort of thing, that's okay. Your end goal is to make sure that when you make your tile, it is the same thickness all throughout. So here at school, we're going to put our rails on each side, and we're going to take our rolling pin and roll in between the rails. And you will see me turn my clay as well and reposition these rails, because we're looking to create a tile that is 5 inches square. Okay, so we have to make sure that we end up with a piece of clay big enough. So we're going to keep rolling, making sure that we are rolling on top of the rails. We want to keep on top of the rails because the rails will give us that even thickness of clay that we need. Okay, so once we have that, I'm going to center my template in my clay in a way that it will fit and that I don't have to lose any of the depth or the thickness that I've created. So if you are at school, you'll be using a needle tool to carve this out. You could also use a fettling knife if you wish. If you are at home, one of my favorite tools is simply a paper clip bent out, and you hold it right like this, and then you'll be cutting along just as if you were a needle tool. So we're going to hold down our template, and you're going to pull towards you and pull this clay off. Now if you're at home, you're not going to be using a template. You're going to be using a good old-fashioned ruler, and it needs to be 5 inches square. So you're going to have to make sure that you measure that you get a perfect square. So if you're at home, you might want to make your template out of a piece of paper first. Measure and make sure you get it perfectly square before you roll out your tile. Okay. I've set aside all my scraps, and I'm left with this surface to work with. So if you're at school, we're going to be working with a piece of canvas. The back, it has been cut into 4 pieces, and you're going to see that you have one finished side, actually you have 2 finished sides, and then this side right here is not finished, and neither is this side. So we're going to take masking tape and tape over this side and over this side so it is sealed. Once you have that, you're going to turn it over, center it on your clay tile, and you're going to turn this completely over. You're going to flip it, and then you'll take off the canvas gently by rolling it off like this. So you now should have a nice flat piece of clay that is more or less the same thickness within reason all the way around. Okay, so this will serve as the foundation for our tile project. If you are at home and you don't have something like this, which is a piece of canvas, I like to take just a piece of corrugated cardboard, like from an Amazon delivery. You can also take a few layers of cereal box and put them together, glue them together to create a nice thick surface that you can work on. You just need something solid enough that's going to be able to support your tile so that you can work on it on top of a surface, okay? You also want it on this so that you can then put this all directly inside a Ziploc bag, because you need to keep this moist when you transport it. You do not want to transport it uncovered because it will dry out. So if you put this in a plastic bag, it will then still fit inside of your toolbox or your shoebox full of clay supplies and tools.